this video, I'm going to be looking through the research and findings of my research. I'll be looking through the audience research I did to pick up on any particular good things I had to say about the storylines, as well as improvements of my storyline, as well as just giving a general overview on their favourite things in thriller film storylines, and what I need to include in my storyline in order to fulfill what my audience want to see. So, I'll be rewatching the video of my audience research, finding out what everyone said about, in general, about the thriller films, as I just said. But more importantly, this video focuses on what they thought of my personal storyline. This is really important because, obviously, if there's anything they really don't like about the storyline early on, I can change it. And if there's anything that they do like about the storyline, I can make sure to keep it in order for me to get to film my final storyline idea in upcoming blog posts. And this will just help me to create the best possible storyline for my thriller film trailer that my audience want to see. So the first person I asked was Sam. Now, most of the people in the audience research are based around my target audience, 17 to 18 year olds mostly. There was an exception, just see the older generation, but my target audience is between 13 years and 23 years, so this is kind of the halfway mark, the halfway age between these two gaps. So that's why I decided to ask these people. Now, Sam said that in particular what she liked about thriller film storylines is the developing storyline. She feels that if the storyline is being developed as she watches it, and obviously she gave the example of Gone Girl, that really interests her to the film. And I can relate to her with this one. I can relate to what she's talking about, because if a thriller film doesn't develop its storyline and it's just 2D and it's just something, there's just a character, something happens to him and he solves it, there's not really much depth there. Seeing a film develop and having sub-twists and sub-plots, and twists and turns throughout the film is what makes the film complete, in my opinion. And I can see where she is coming from, saying that she likes to have the thriller film developed. But now, most importantly, what she thought about my film. She likes the idea of all the action-packed parts of the film. So this would be the fight scenes that are going to happen between John and his friends, and John and his enemies, and his friends that betray him, I should say. There's going to be a lot of action scenes in my film already, so I'm very happy she picked up on this, because the pure fact that she said that she likes action, the action parts, helps me a lot, because I agree with her in saying that in a typical thriller film I like to see action, and in this circumstance of my thriller film I wanted to include action. Now, through previous research and storylines which I've looked into, a lot of people say that action makes it seem like more of an action, like fight scenes, makes it more action genre. It can actually make it quite boring. It's to develop the storyline they care about. But I feel if you don't show even a little bit of action in the trailer, then people will be quite bored and won't really want to see it, because there's not really much happening. If they think there's going to be a whole talking film where there's no actual break from the talking, it's just the storyline develops through speech, it can get a little bit boring. Whereas the storyline develops through action and chases and fights, and just things starting to heat up between the characters. That's much more interesting for the audience, physically seeing the storyline develop through hatred towards another character or love towards another character. I feel is a better way to go about it, and this is where I picked up on it from, and I'm glad she picked up on it through my plot synopsis. The fact that this developing storyline is what she likes, and she's noticed the developed storyline just from my plot synopsis. So I feel that this is going to be a really good film to benefit her, and I also feel that her comments speak for a lot of other thriller film fans out there. So I'm very happy that she agreed with the fact that it seems like it's going to have a lot of action in it, and she likes some of the twists and turns I've told her about as of yet. Obviously, all the twists and turns won't be developed yet. It will find out more in the actual film and in the trailer. But for the parts I revealed to her, she seems very excited to see the film. And overall, that's what a plot synopsis should do for the trailer. It should aid the trailer, and then the trailer should get the audience excited for the film. And at the end of the day, if they're excited for the film and they go and pay to watch the film, then you've done something right. So overall, there was a very positive feedback for my plot, for my storyline, from Sam on my thriller film trailer. The next person I asked was Neve, and Neve, being the same age as Sam, 17, she said that in thriller films, personally to her, she prefers the ones that are gory. Now, at first, especially when I was asking her this question, I thought, is she getting a little bit confused with the horror film franchise and the thriller film franchise? Because though similar, they're a bit different. And then as I kept thinking about this, I thought, no, of course she's not, because first of all, she herself too is a media student, and two, there are plenty of horror, of gory thriller films out there. For example, one that popped to my head was Silence of the Lambs. That film could be quite gory, in fact, and that is a perfect example for what she likes in thriller films, is the gore factor. And yes, she said she likes the gore factor, but Silence of the Lambs isn't 18. I plan to have my film a 12A, so I don't really think that would be appropriate for my thriller film. Though she was the only person to say this in the whole audience research and the whole research I've done as a whole. Therefore, I don't really plan to go ahead with this idea of using gore. Yes, she likes it, but as we get to in a minute, she said some other things about my storyline. So when it came to me asking her about my personal storyline, she first of all said that she quite likes the fact that there is obviously action in it, and she said she likes the mysterious vibe of it. And my storyline is quite mysterious because the thing about my protagonist is the fact that he is relatable to a lot of people, because he is he gets depressed just like everyone gets low sometimes. He smokes. Quite a lot of people smoke out there when they're sad. They drink. A lot of people drink out there when they're sad, and people just drink in general. There's a lot of like everyday aspects to John that people can really relate to. And another thing she said is the mysterious storyline. The fact that because John is this kind of person that he doesn't really make much sense, he faked his own death to protect his family. Now that's a very bold move, I think, and I feel that because I use that creates the mystery in the storyline itself. Someone faked their own death to protect their family, yet, yes, there's been films before of people faking their own death. Yes, of course there has been. But the thing about John is that he doesn't tell his family that he just faked it. As far as they know, he's actually dead. Now, you could say this is for extra protection, because private investigator, there'll be a lot of people watching you once they find out that you are a private investigator. So this adds in more to his character, the fact that he's mysterious, and the fact that he doesn't want his family to know he's still alive. He wants them to be as safe as possible. And then obviously they do die off screen, not in the actual film, and obviously he knows about it, and that's what makes him have this massive smoking and alcohol habit. And I feel that really does develop his character. And she also pointed out that she likes the way that he fakes his own death. She said that's quite a unique idea, and I think that I agree, this is quite a unique idea, and it does add development to not only the storyline, but his character as well. The faking his own death storyline really does help with putting things into place. It explains a lot about the storyline, a lot about his past, and a lot about his future. So there's a lot of ideas that can speculate around him faking his own death that I think that could really develop the storyline further, and I'm glad that Neve pointed out on this and really liked this idea of John faking his own death. So the next person I asked was Will, and now, yes, we were still the same age range as the two previous people I asked, but this time we're getting a male's view on the situation. Now, Will actually kind of said a similar thing to Neve about what he likes about thriller films, and this was the fact that he likes the scare factor. Now, the scare factor, again, could be seen as a horror film, but you have to remember there is quite freaky thriller films out there, and he did use the example of Misery, where he also pointed out the suspense. He says, a suspense makes a thriller film, and that's what makes it different from the other genres. And he said, yes, other genres have suspense, but it's thriller films that really intensify that suspense and make it unpredictable. He says in other films, in other genres, they could be quite predictable. So this is something I need to get right in my thriller film. If I don't get the suspense right, then obviously people like Will aren't going to want to come and see the film. And personally to myself, when I watch a thriller film, I want a bit of suspense there, at least, if not having the whole storyline based around a suspenseful factor. And that's what I really like about it, and obviously that's what he really likes about it too. And obviously the fact that he pointed out Misery was quite a good thing, because I spoke about Misery when I was researching storylines about like suspense and stuff like that. So I feel like this is a really good thing to kind of master, getting the suspense right in my storyline, and to make sure that my storyline has enough suspense to keep people watching. Now, when I asked him about my thriller film, something that he pointed out on straight away, which I was really happy about, was my main character, John. He says he seems like quite an unlikable guy because he doesn't like himself and the things that he does. However, he does seem like a likable guy because he cares about others, meaning his family. And all these people can relate to people like this, to John, because he's doing what he's doing. He's kind of wasting his life to protect his family's life, which is a completely selfless act of just a great guy, really. Yes, he beats up bad guys. Yes, he doesn't really care what he's doing. Yes, he smokes. Yes, he drinks. There's all these negatives about him. But that one positive, that he protects his family, completely changes the way you view on him. If you said everything else about this guy, John, he's a smoker, he's a drinker, he beats up people for a job, he doesn't care about if their families or not, and people are going to think, wow, this guy sounds like the antagonist. And then you show that one piece of information, that he fakes his own death and he does all this to protect his own family. It completely changes the way that a person looks at John. And I feel like he says I clearly convey in the storyline what I want people to think of John, which is such a crucial thing to have, especially in the trailer. So obviously this trailer hopefully will be successful from the fact that people think that John is this character. And he also pointed out that the storyline has a lot of suspense in it, with the fact that they're faking their own death and lots of beating and lots of action in it. It is going to have a lot of suspense in the film. So therefore, I feel like Whispers of Yesterday is going to have enough in there for everybody to enjoy. And I feel like what Will said about suspense and the character development is really good. And so far, I really don't really see any need to change anything in the storyline, especially to do with my main character of John. Because I feel like, so far from the feedback we've had from John, it couldn't have been better. And I feel like John is centered around this storyline, and I feel like people are starting to really like the character of John and the storyline and the background he's starting to build around him. Once again, I asked someone at the age of, well, actually, he was a bit older. He was 18, and another male asked him about thriller films, and the person's name was Ben. Now, Ben had quite a unique look on thriller films, which is something I really liked. He said that his favourite types of thriller films are ones that are based on a true story. Now, though I do not plan to do anything based on a true story, because to get a true story that interests people can be quite a difficult task. A latest thriller film based on a true story that I can think of is Deepwater Horizon, and that did very well, and I really thoroughly enjoyed that film. However, I feel like if you don't pick a real story that doesn't really have much action in it, it's not going to work very well. And because of the budget I'm on and the skills I have, I don't think I'm ready to take that step. Though I thought this was a very interesting view for Ben to have, saying that he enjoyed ones based on true story, because his reasoning for this was that, in his own words, they hit home the hardest, which is true. They do hit us as people the hardest, knowing that, such as films like Deepwater Horizon or Everest, when people lose their lives and there's big disasters that happen, it does affect us in a way that thinking that actually happened, and the way that the actors are portraying the characters on screen, that is probably how they reacted. Just the fear they have and the sadness they have when their families, when the unfortunate event happens that they pass away, or even if they survive, the emotional impacts this disaster can have on them really does hit home. And also I asked Ben the question of what he thought of my storyline, but unfortunately for me, I didn't realise until I was editing this video that I slightly mispronounced the question and said, what do you think of the trailer? Now, Ben has seen a sneak peek of the trailer in development. The trailer isn't complete as yet, it's far from, but he's seen aspects of the trailer and pre-filmed bits to experiment with. And it was a kind of a mismatch on both halves. I said the question wrong and he interpreted the question a little bit differently. So what he said wasn't really what I was looking for, though he did say from the bits that he'd seen on my trailer that I've obviously pre-done and the kind of editing techniques I've been messing around with, because obviously I've been preparing for my final film and I've been using the software Premiere Pro to get myself ready to edit the full trailer. And he says that from what he's seen, it looks really good, and he also said that from the storyline, he would definitely want to go and see this film. So that's positives all around. It shows that Ben is liking my editing technique and style so far, and it also shows that from the storyline, he is excited to see the film, which of course, at the end of the day, that is what a trailer is supposed to do. So even though Ben misunderstood the question and I said the question wrong, I still got some positive feedback from this unfortunate circumstance. The next person I asked was actually Joanne. Now, Joanne is the exception I mentioned at the start of the video when I said that I asked someone, and she's actually in her mid-30s, and she's female, so it's getting another take on what the storyline sounds like to a different generation as such. And what she says she likes about thriller films is that she likes it to have jumps and turns. It's almost like she's saying that she likes it to be intense and suspenseful, which is what we've already heard before. So it's quite good that the older generation seem to be saying similar things to the younger generation, and they seem to be interested in the same types of things and looking for the same things when they watch a thriller film. So this is quite good to say that they're seeing the same things, because this could mean that even though my age range is from 13 up to 23, target audience, it could mean that I could end up getting people from all different age ranges, such as Joanne being such a different age and different genders to someone like Will, and they seem to be liking the same type things, means that other generations could come to see the film. An example I actually have of this is a personal experience of mine when the film later this year called Bad Mums came out. Now, Bad Mums, right from the title, you can see the target audience they were going for. You can clearly see was kind of middle-aged women who were obviously mums, and it was kind of a film for them. It was kind of like a girly night out for them to go and explore, and to have a night out of watching something on screen that they can relate to and what they find funny, because this film was comedy. However, I saw this film because me and my girlfriend went to see it. Now, we are both younger and we're only 17, and even though if you were to broaden the target audience for this film, it would be females. So it's quite... yes, the majority of the cinema was packed full of middle-aged women, but there's the occasional, such as myself, that were not... this film was not made for. And that does not mean I did not like the film. The film was fine. It wasn't one of the greatest films I've ever seen. But it kind of goes to show that even though you have a target audience, you're going to get people from all different age ranges coming to see it, whether they get dragged along to come and see it, or if the fact that they like to... middle-aged women, the target audience will come and see it, as well as bringing people along that they want to see it. Now, Joanne said about my thriller film that she says that it has all the twists and turns that she would be looking for. She also said that the fact that he fakes her own death is kind of like that twist that she's looking for, and the jumps. She says she likes jump scares, so that would be something I could try and incorporate, or at least try and incorporate something a little bit tense and maybe a bit scary, like Will said, for her to enjoy. And she said that the storyline of her niece and him also protecting his family, and his niece is a kind of a subgenre on his own. You've got him protecting his niece and fighting his people, but the faking his own death and his life dealing with this is kind of two separate storylines on its own. I would say disagree with her as such, which is something I need to work on. The fact that I would say that the niece is a subgenre, plot. Sorry, I would say that's the majority of the plot, and everything else that happens is kind of more of a subplot. But it's all the way you interpret the film. But overall, it doesn't really matter, because she said that she would look forward to seeing the thriller film, and it'd be a film that she would be interested to see herself. And the best thing about this, and the most thing I'm trying to point out about this section of the video, and this person in particular that asked this research, is the fact that she's not in the target audience. In fact, she's quite a above the age of the target audience, yet she still likes the sound of the film, and it's still a film that she would come and see. So it kind of shows that even though you target yourself to a short age range, you can still get a wider range of people wanting to come and see my thriller film, which is great because that means the film will gross more money, and it means that the film could be even better or even have a sequel. Now, the last person I asked was once again a 17-year-old male who was Mason. Unfortunately, I feel that Mason was someone that had never actually answered any questions about films or been filmed, so I feel like the nerves quite got to him. But this was still quite an interesting experience to see what he thought about thriller films, and he said personally to him, the things he likes about thriller films, he said he loves gore, he loves pain. He just says he loves the fight scenes. And that's good, because in my trailer, I plan to have fight scenes, and I plan to have not so much gore, as we discussed earlier, for the age restrictions of a 12+. That's what I want my certificate to be. But I still want to have some violence and some scenes with pain in them. Yes, some scene I may not show like actual hard hitting because I want it to look realistic, but the pain and the kind of the look of pain and violence will definitely be there. So I'm glad that I can satisfy Mason on this part of the film, and I feel that this is something that quite a lot of people will be going after, is kind of the violence and pain side to the film. So I feel like they'll be pleasantly surprised when they see that I have got these action fight scenes in there. And when I asked Mason about my thriller film, he said that it just sounds like a normal type thriller film. Now this has positives and negatives to it. It sounds good because it sounds like a normal thriller film from what big conglomerates make, like Universal Studios or anywhere like that. Warner Brothers, it sounds like what a type of film that they would make, a thriller film that they would make. So surely that's a good thing. However, I kind of see it as a negative, because if it sounds like a typical thriller film, it may sway people away from it. They may not want to see the film. I will see it as a negative, but if we take it in a positive light, like most of these comments have been, it means that the thriller film holds up there with some of the best thriller films of all time. So I feel that this was something good. And other than that, he didn't really have much to say about the film, but he did say it sounds good. So at the end of the day, Mason said it sounds good, and he would be excited to see the thriller film. And at the end of the day, if the storyline entices you to want to see the trailer, and even better, want to come and see the full film, then I feel that the storyline plot synopsis has done its job, and I feel that once I see the trailer has done its job. So good feedback from Mason. Overall, my plot got good feedback, other than the last comment made by Mason, which could have been taken good or bad. Other than that, it was all good. People thought that it sounded like what a thriller film should be, and they agreed that it would be a thriller film that if they heard about it, that they would be very interested in watching. And therefore, I feel like the plot has done its job to entice my audience to come and see the film. I focus mainly on young people that are fitted in the middle of my target audience, but an older person said that they would be enticed to see the film. So overall, I feel that the plot has done its job, and I do not feel that the plot needs to be changed in any way, because the positive feedback proved for itself that people want to come and see the trailer for my thriller film.